And we are going to look at this from the angle we didn't look at it from. Anyways, November 2025, senior U.S. officials, including former U.S. President, current U.S. President Donald Trump, spoke publicly threatening possible military options or punitive measures over large-scale killings of Christians in Nigeria. These comments have provoked a strong Nigerian rejection as an attack on sovereignty. U.S. actions so far have included placing Nigeria on the U.S. Country of Particular Concern (CPC) list for religious freedom violations and public threats of aid cuts or other pressure. Some U.S. lawmakers and campaigners have urged still tougher steps. These moves increase diplomatic and reputational pressure but fall short of lawful unilateral military intervention without broader legal authorization. Earlier I spoke about, attack on our sovereignty, and I look at us. Do we probably have? Do we really consider our sovereignty where even the Nigerian products are not even patronized? The president, as a matter of fact, there is no video, no evidence of him using a Nigerian hospital. There is a $1 billion clinic in the Aso Villa, and he flies to France every two weeks to get a medical checkup. And a sovereign state whose president does not even believe in its facilities. Anyways, I'll continue. The claim of a Christian genocide is politically charged. That is what a lot of people have been saying, and it is heavily debated. Human rights and faith groups report very high numbers of Christian victims in recent years, while many analysts and reporters stress that violence in Nigeria is complex. Insurgent groups, communal clashes. I do not want to believe in communal clashes. We are not in the 1700s where people try to fight a piece of land, but we know what is happening. They call it farmer header clashes, while some are coming with guns and arrows and the rest of it, while I am just in my farm. We are not meeting at a battlefield. I am in my farm. And those in their farms are getting slaughtered. So when the narrative of farmer header clashes flies here and there, I am never in support of it. Absolutely never in support of it. Criminality and competition over land often cut across religious lines, framing matters for policy for whether outside intervention can be legally or morally justified. Alright, to put this into summary and into a broader perspective, public U.S. threats and CPC designations. Okay, these are facts of the matter. U.S. statesmen recently threatened possible military steps or sanctions and re-enlisted Nigeria as a CPC. That's an escalating rhetoric that increases pressure for Nigeria. Of course, Nigeria reaction. Nigeria has our government officials have publicly rejected the characterization of Christian genocide, with so many persons coming out there to say that no, that almost everybody has been a victim of this insecurity. But then, like I mentioned this morning, the Christian populace who are not comfortable with the wanton killings of their people are coming out in their numbers to speak against it. They are not holding back. I want to give a big kudos to the Catholic Church. They've been a big victim for a very long time. You go to the dailies, just go on your search histories. Reverend fathers kidnapped and killed from Enugu to Taraba to Borno to Adamawa to Plateau to Benue in their numbers. These people have been victims of these attacks, and it has lingered for a very long time, and nothing has been done to actually fight these things. Anyways, on ground of violence, multiple reports from NGOs, faith groups, and even from the EU Parliament document thousands of killings and kidnappings in recent years affecting Christians and Muslims. Constitution is mixed in both Boko Haram, ISIS, and West African communal header clashes and the rest of them. See, there is a graph that actually indicates that, like you mentioned this morning, the communities that used to harbor humans and livestock and everything have been deserted. A high number of them. People have been killed in their numbers. And, as a matter of fact, one of the governors in the Middle Belt and the Plateau governor said there was an ethnic cleansing going on. And in these communities, these people are predominantly Christians. Predominantly Christians. Of course, you find Muslims there, but they are predominantly Christians, and they get killed in their numbers. A lot of them. Let's look at the legal and practical limits of a U.S. intervention. The UN Charter protects state sovereignty. External military action without UN Security Council authorization is unlawful and in most circumstances. Unilateral threats of force risk breaching international law and inflaming regional tensions. Number 2, responsibility to protect R2P. R2P can justify international action in cases of genocides and crimes against humanity, but it normally requires a UN Security Council backing and a clear demonstrable pattern of state failure or complicity in a high legal bar. Reverend, after the proclamation by the USA, on the internet, and of course even on ground, if people out there embrace a US intervention in a country like Nigeria, where security gets the most funding for the past 10 to 12 years, if they can receive them in warm hands and they are excited that it's going to be an intervention, then we should look at ourselves and, those who are their high echelons should know that they have failed in Nigerian people.
Very much. Very much so. Thank you very much for having me. And just like we said earlier today that we'll be here, and here we are. What you have pointed out is one of the major knotty issues that we have refused to address as a people group, and now it is beginning to bite. It's unfortunate that just like in the early days of Boko Haram, even though I was not there in person, but there were reports that when Boko Haram, rolled into any community or any area, people tend to had welcomed them, even though I didn't see that for myself, and I do not have any solid evidence. But I'm sure that evidence do exist of where people had, in a way or the other, shown sympathy to Boko Haram and those that intended to kind of, or those that actually carried it out. In this case, I asked myself a question when I learned that the President of the United States had tweeted something and have said something that are giving credence to what we now discuss of the possible military option in the if there's this genocide, so said, of a particular religious group and ethnic area is sustained. Now, the question I asked myself was this, and I believe a lot of listeners out there might have asked themselves that same question, maybe even you too. And the question is this: should the American government say the only problem they have is a place where they will land their drones or jets or whatsoever? This is hypothetical, purely hypothetical. Should the American government say the problem they have is that they need a strip, they need land in order to build a maybe let's say a tarmac or a landing pad for their equipment and for their personnel or for whatsoever they want to do? The question I ask myself is, how many communities will be willing to grant them such a space so that they could come and do the intervention? And I'm talking about communities that are doing this willingly, not under duress or for any financial inducement, but just going out there and doing, playing hosts to this. Now, that question in itself scares me, and just like what you said, it shows a level of failure of both leadership, of the political class, of those that have continued to hold on to the reins of managing Nigeria for all these years. As far back as 2009, 2010, 2011, when this whole issue started, and there seemed to be no concerted effort or a willingness to be able to drive this ugly trend out of the nation, not just by one religious group or the other. And just like you mentioned, it is not only the Catholic Church that have suffered. You have the Equa Church, the EYN, the ERCC, so many churches that, especially those that are located within the north central Nigeria and, a lot of the northern states in Nigeria, where you have indigenous churches and other churches that have suffered a lot of losses. Now, so long as this matter is not addressed and this matter is not put, in perspective, which we have, sorry to use the word, but which we have failed to do successfully. Yes, we have had pockets of successes here and there. Yes, you hear reports here, the military neutralized this, a number of terrorists, maybe the police arrested and all of that, and the civil defense, the Amotekhuns and the rest of them. But it has not been, we have not successfully wiped out these menace because the concerted nature of our effort, or the nature of our effort is not concerted conscious enough to be able to address this systematically. Like I posted on my social media page the other day, which you could also check out. I talked about the fact that, hey, we have been paying lip service to this whole problem. We have refused to look at the root cause of the matter, where the problem really lies. We have not looked at it yet. We are still, looking at the buddings, we are still looking at the branches, we are still looking at the flowers, but we have refused to address the root cause of the problem. And the question I asked is, yes, this issue of the President Donald Trump and his people, talking about, and all of that. Some people say they are warmongering. Some people say they are looking for natural resources, to feed their factories and all of that. I just laugh in the face of all those rubbish. Because when I look at it very closely, at the end of the day, the sanctity of life and the primary responsibility of government and leaders to protect the lives and properties of their citizenry. Where have we left that? If today anybody in any part of this country will be happy that there's a purported or an invasion, even though we will not talk about the fact that this intervention have not been done before. America have come to Nigeria, I think once or twice, to remove their citizens that had been kidnapped by insurgent group and other extremist individuals within our territories, or we're very close by around. They've done this before, and now they're coming to say, okay, want to do. Now the challenge is that the fact that a lot of Nigerians seem to be happy that something like this want to happen, it's an indication. It's an indication on the scorecard of leadership in Nigeria to say that leadership have failed and have failed terribly. To a large extent, that people from other countries are the ones proposing to come to our own country to secure the lives of our citizens. Then something have gone very, very wrong. And I can assure you that it did not just go wrong under Tinubu, but it started even before that.
This morning, Reverend, I was speaking about the lack of consequences in our, in our governance.
Yeah.
In the entire country, people do so many things and get away with it. I will speak about our religious, the governors and state governors, where you hear about killings that have happened in these states in their numbers. And these governors do not do anything
at all.
Sometimes they play a blind eye. They
pretend
these things never happened. Like, for example, in Kwara, like I mentioned, example in Kwara State, where communities were raised down, people died in their numbers. The videos are on the internet. The governor did not respond to that. He was out on a jamboree with the president in Imo State to launch a project. It's in states in Nigeria where terrorists and bandits have raised down communities, killed farmers in their numbers, even imposed taxes on these farmers. While the governors are out there trying to build billion-naira airports that does not even help the average person on the street.
And the citizens are staying in IDP camps. Let me even push it a little further, sir. You have a situation whereby terrorists, let us put it that way, terrorists come into a place, send the indigents, the people that have these ancestral lands, packing. And the terrorists pack in,
occupy these places,
and then the indigents are staying in IDP camps. And then that governor is now talking about resettling those in the IDP camp, while he's not addressing how he's going to remove the terrorists from his own state. And we call that a solution. That is not a solution. That is it's like you have embers that are already burning, and then you are carrying a flammable material and you are covering it. Those embers will not die. Eventually they will pick up. Remember that after you have talked about, if eventually you resettle the IDP, let's imagine that you manufacture land and space somewhere and you resettle the IDPs and they get land somewhere to stay. Now, what about those terrorists that came to settle there? In the next 10, 15, 20 generations, do you think that there will be peace in that state or in that environment? So any governor or any leader that is feeling as if, no, you can keep terrorists within your environment and you'll be okay. Remember that there is a passage in the Bible that says something that is very, very instructive. He said, can you hold fire in your bosom and that you will not be burnt? Now, the fact is, it is completely no. When we continue to play lip service to some of these things that are happening, people coming in from every corner of Africa or West Africa, and then, they cross our borders, they come into our country, they do all kinds of things, and embolden even some local people that ordinarily will not have the confidence to carry out some of these things, and you allow them to come and take over lands, take over places, levy taxes on law-abiding citizens. it's very, very painful. Now, what do you want the citizens to say? Will the citizens now have confidence? No wonder they'll be celebrating when anybody mentioned from any part of the world, say, I want to come and do something to help you, they will celebrate anything the person they will give them. They will give them because they are not even getting that kind of attention from their own leaders, from their own government. I remember the other time, we're having a program here on leadership the other day, and somebody called him to complain that even their senators now, they cannot reach them. And I want to even add to say, even the House of Rep members, you cannot read them. Even if you're eventually able to read them, they're telling, okay, no, call the PA this, call the PA that. Sometimes you even say, okay, let me even write a letter. Let me do this. Now, what sparked the whole of this issue was when, apart from the other social media posts, there was a Catholic bishop, I think from somewhere in Benue State, that addressed, a committee in the United States, just like we say, their own version of what we call the National Assembly, or in the Senate. He addressed just a committee on religious tolerance, and then he presented the case before them and said, this is the problem I'm having in my area, the people in my diocese, in the people I serve, the flock that I serve, and this is what we are going through. And that was where this whole issue came up. Now, why is it that man could not go to the National Assembly and present such a paper? That is the question we should ask ourselves. Why is it that he had to go outside of the Nigerian shores before he would get a listening ear? Why is it that he couldn't go to the State House of Assembly and get that attention and even get the kind of energy that we are now getting? That bishop in Benue had to go to the United States before he could be listened to. What happened to the Senate? What happened to the courts? What happened to the executive? Nobody wants to pay attention. I can guarantee that today, let I and you, sir, and a few other of us, let us write to the National Assembly and say, we want to come and have, to talk about these issues on, to the National Assembly in order to see where policies can be formulated and things can be done in order to halt that progress. In most cases, maybe you hear, we have stepped it down to the committee of this and of that, and before you know it, we are still in the problem. Our kings are being killed, our lands are being collected, our liberties are being infringed upon, and we are the law-abiding citizen. When a non-state actor or someone that is not a law-abiding citizen can have an AK-47 and be parading himself within the community and scaring everybody to death, and yet you want the law-abiding citizens are being scared to death, the law enforcement officer that will arrest such persons and make sure that they disarm them in order to maintain decorum in the society or in the community, they can't perform their function. And you still expect that those same people should not hear that somebody is saying, I want to come and help, and the persons will not celebrate or jubilate or be able to be, to have a level of, and so, okay, this is somebody that's finally listening to us. I think it is high time that even the leadership within our context begin to listen and pay attention to the citizenry. We cannot, the citizens are the biggest asset of this country. Let me just come up to something you mentioned earlier. You talked about the issue of sovereignty. But let us ask ourselves, what sovereignty is? If we ask critically, really, really think and talk about this, is Nigeria sovereign? Can we say we are a sovereign entity? What do I mean by being sovereign? When you say you are sovereign, it means you, in my own vocabulary, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree, sovereignty means that you don't need anybody. You can do without anybody. That's what sovereignty means. You could handle your business without having anybody, having to come and interfere. But now the fact is, let us start from where you talked about. Are we sovereign? Okay, let me even say, how much was spent on the hospital or the clinic in the villa? I have been there once or twice. Now the question is,
billions, it receives allocation every
year. Allocations are sent, and these are good monies. Now the fact is this: is it really being used by those that those monies are being spent in order for them to use them? Can the president of this country beat his chest and go to the hospital in the villa and say he wants medication for something, and he can be confident on the Nigerian doctors that are there? It's because we have not built the system that will impose those things for that to happen. We'll talk about some of these things later, but now let's come and look at it. When we talk about sovereignty, in what area is Nigeria sovereign? If we want to talk about critically, everything you import, the little raw materials you have, you export. You are even unable to negotiate at the table with those that you're exporting these materials to in order to get a good deal. And even when you get a good deal, remember that sovereignty does not lie in the leadership. For the nation to be sovereign, its people must be sovereign too. Which local government in Nigeria is sovereign? Just recently, we talked about the autonomy of a local government to receive allocation directly from the federal government through the central bank and all of that. In many cases, up to now, governors still control the resources of the local government. Even though the money comes directly to their account, they can't manage it. The governor may still be dictating exactly what they will do with that money. And if they do not do it, he will be the one that will declare it. He will not impeach that. He will remove that person and bring what's the name of that beautiful thing they call it, a sole administrator or whatever name they call for the local government, and then he will be controlling the person to do what he wants. And you're talking about sovereignty. When you talk about sovereignty, you must respect every arm of government. The local government have their responsibility, the state government have their responsibility, the federal government have their responsibility, and everybody should carry out their responsibility. That's where you talk about sovereignty from. But when you talk about sovereignty, where is the sovereignty? When for a state governor cannot protect his own state, he would rather leave, just like the person you were mentioning, I think that was the Kwara state, if I'm not mistaken, where the person will leave his state because the president is having a function there. If he does not go and pay loyalty, he will be in trouble. Whether his state is catching fire, it's not his business. So long as he can protect his pot of soup under the president. So why will you talk about all of those?
Before we open the phone lines to the general public, I want to speak on our lack of willpower. There are so many states, so many times where in different states in the country, they receive fundings from the World Bank or the IMF or the rest of them to fix particular problems, and at the end of the day, these people do not carry out what they are supposed to do. And when at the end of the day, these floodings happen, these villages get damaged.
Yeah.
There are no consequences for these things. I cannot emphasize how much religious homes have actually helped to protect the misgovernance of the government. Honestly, I want to say that one too many times this the Reverend Fathers and some imams to an extent provide succor for these people. They provide them support with shelter,
psychosocial support.
Psychosocial support.
Yes.
But the government just moves around with luxury of cars without doing anything. And I want to talk about the kind of governance we practice on the continent. The African Union sits and watch nations watch leaders cheat themselves into elected positions. And that is the worst form of misgovernance you ever find anywhere.
Yes.
Elections are not free and fair. And when this coup happens, the AU are quick to suspend these nations where, the militaries in these places have seen that the civilian government do not carry out their duties.
Yes.
I want to mention, just recently, our neighbor here, Cameroon, the president has ruled for over 40 years and the people are aggrieved. The African Union does not address these issues. They are quick to send congratulatory messages to these persons when you know that the processes in which this will come into power are not democratic. It hurts me, and I think for the sub-Saharan Africa, we have a massive problem.
Yes.
For sub-Saharan Africa, we have a big problem where we don't even know how to hold our leaders accountable. And when people come into power, they abuse these offices so much that they try to create avenues and ways to ensure that they prolong their stays in these places. For Ivory Coast, when Alassane Ouattara, when he won the election against Laurent Gbagbo, there was so much tension in the country that influential people like the footballer J. Drogba had to come into place to ensure that there was calm. He came into power, he tweaked the constitution, and now he wants to run for a fourth term. This is the problem we have with the African continent, where they rely heavily so much. The people who are in authority want respect, but they give nothing in reciprocity. They want you to patronize made in Nigeria, while they do not even look at the Nigeria to even invest and promote or grow this country. They want you to please sit down, listen, and pray for good governance, while they take their kids and their families to places where things are happening, where they can assure them of a better life. On the dailies and the papers, you see that government officials are seizing government lands and get allocated to their families. There's so much people. There was a paper I saw from the 70s where a judge was jailed for receiving a 20 naira bribe. Look around us now. Since 1999 till date, there have been over 700 cases on economic mismanagement, and only 3 convictions have happened. And guess what? All 3 persons are being let loose now. And they were ex-governors.
Exactly.
How do we get a better country when there are no repercussions for these actions?
There are some things that the platform we have will not allow us to say. So sometimes the social media become the only space where somebody can, say some things and be able to to kind of get away with it, if you will allow me to use that expression, even though not really getting away. Consequence of action, whether positive or negative, is a serious feedback mechanism for any society or any organization to be able to perpetuate itself. When somebody does something, for example, when somebody does something good, patriotic and all of that, you call them and give them a national honor. But when somebody does something bad, then what do? You also call them and give them a national shame, disgrace, such as jailing such persons and ensuring that their political career or whatsoever ends. This will serve as a deterrent for the coming. See, if we're talking about this now, I can, and if I pray something happen, that we are able to rise up, that our consciousness, our mindset will change as a people, not just as individuals, but as a people, in order to bring about the needed change that the society needs to change. Or else, imagine this happening, imagine this conversation in the next 30 years. When is it to be our children talking about these things? The level of impunity, what we have in Nigeria, I think I was listening to one of the speakers somewhere. He said the problem we have with Nigeria is impunity. Impunity in the sense that one person can rise up and he will take the whole nation, he will hold it at ransom. And there are lots of ways we can see this playing out in our environment. Talk about, you've just mentioned one, that a public office holder that is holding a whole state does not equip a single university or polytechnic or college of education or anyone that his own children can attend. And the state, and all of us in the state, we know his children are flown abroad every semester to go and study, and all of us, we fold our hands and we are looking at him.
And a few people, sing their praises to receive crumbs,
so that to now fight for him. And we think it is okay, and we don't feel that this person is mismanaging our collective resource. Now, when you go forward from that again, you come to a point where you see the level of impunity have reached, in the sense that you that even try to speak up, if you cannot be bought over, if you cannot be threatened sufficiently, something will be looked for so that you will be the one that will be in trouble. Why the evildoers will still be walking around, and still the society folds its hands. Sometime in around 2000 and around the year 2001, 2001, I met somebody that said his problem that he has discovered is that we as a people have lost our ability to be angry. So we have learned to live with anything, to tolerate anything, to allow anything. So whatsoever happens, so long as I can eat, I can breathe, I'm still alive, let life goes on. But now the thing is, what is the quality of life that is going on? We must hold our leaders accountable, but accountable in such a way that we are not destroying what exists in order to build a new one. No, there must be a continuum, but coming to a point where we break off from a mindset that have not helped to a mindset that can help. I will stop, and then maybe I'll allow you to
2 weeks ago, I just want to say something. 2 weeks ago, the head of NACA, National Action Committee Against AIDS, I was in primary school when the Obasanjo administration created that agency to fight
HIV.
HIV. Recently, she came on the Twitter space to say that she is a stronghold APC member. The reason why she got this position was because she fought for the party. And in her communities and her places, she has ensured that the APC flag is being flown very high. First of all, this is a committee, this is a group, this is an organization set to battle HIV and AIDS prevalence.
Which was a problem for Nigerians
then. But it has been heavily politicized that the head of that, the DJ of that organization, comes out to speak about politics or not about data on how they've been able to fight HIV. And it's a problem. I want to look at another different angle. There are so many people who are in high position in society, from political places to traditional rulers, who have a terrible history of being in fraud in the past, some even in drugs. Some who have actually been convicted felons in some parts of the world, and now in official, in positions of governance, and you want to, and you think these people will have the best interest of their people at heart? No, I absolutely do not think so. I put up on the phone lines now. I think we've spoken a bit too much, and I'm sorry, we have to just give me 90 seconds to just call in and contribute, because I'm sure there are too many
persons. Please, when you call in, just go straight to the points, and the salutations we have accepted.
Yes, just your name and just straight to the topic.
Straight to the
All right, to be a part of the program, the number to call is 070-7289-893. 8982. Hello, one. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Go on, I can hear you.
Yes, I overheard your guest saying that we're a sovereignty nation. And at 65 or thereabouts, we are still borrowing money. We are still depending on aid from international community. You know, you can hear Trump saying that all the support, the aid we are getting, it will cut it off. If you are a sovereignty nation, by now you should be producing car of your own. By now you should be producing things of your own that you can as well export. Our refinery cannot work. Our NNPC harvest crude oil here, export it, and import it back. He said he is something to this. Every day he runs